everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson. Guys, we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 in New Orleans. Guys, we got a fantastic show lined up for you tonight, like always we do. Come on, we always do here at the Tinfoil Hat. But first, I got to talk about some exciting news, all right? And this is a big old deal happening down here in the States. Now, I know a lot of y'all, are from my Canada viewers, my Canada folk, and I love you. But down here, we got something that's going on, all right? Tomorrow, November 13th, I don't know if you guys have heard, but they're having the second UAP Congress hearings going on, all right? And we've got three pretty familiar whistleblowers that are supposed to be testifying. Let's see. We've got Michael Gold. He's a former NASA administrator. Michael Gold's going to be talking. We've got retired Navy Tim Gallaudet, okay, which I've already heard some of his stuff, which is very interesting. And of course, another guy who's very well known is Lou Elizondo, okay. Now, I'm hoping maybe we hear even more, than what we heard last time. There was some really interesting things said last time, so I'm hoping maybe we dig a little deeper. So I know I'm going to be glued to the television watching that tomorrow, and hopefully you guys will be too, because I'm sure there'll be some really interesting things come to surface, some stuff that we've been waiting on. Let's hope. Let's keep our fingers crossed at least, okay? All right. Well, we're going to get right to the show, get right to the guests. Let's see. We've got two. That's right. We got two people on. So get your questions ready, folks. I see you, $6 Million Man. Yes. Jillian. Yes. Live Light. What's happening, folks? Thank you for showing up, and get them questions ready, because we got two folks here for your brilliant questions, okay? They're spiritual teachers, paranormal investigators, and Reiki healers. All right. Let's welcome Stephanie and Natalie Kurd.
Hello.
Hi, Danny.
What's happening, guys? How you doing?
We're good. How are you?
Doing good. Now, I tell you what, if you guys don't mind, do you care to maybe go a little more in depth and let our audience know a little more about you?
Sure. My sister Natalie and I, Stephanie, we own a business called Immersive Spirit. And what we do is we do psychic readings, we do intuitive development, we do a lot of coaching for our community. We do paranormal. So we actually, we're both a little tired. We're coming back from the Hotel Congress down in Tucson, Arizona, where we were doing a few nights of investigation there. I'm a Reiki master teacher, so I do also teach Reiki as well as a practitioner for Reiki, which is an energy healing for those that haven't used Reiki before. I'm sure I'm missing something glorious.
I think you covered it. It's mostly about living intentionally. So
Yeah.
we use all of the energies that we have access to help others.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So now you guys are sisters, correct?
We are.
All right. So that's interesting. Okay. So I think this is our first family duo by far here. You know, I don't even think we've ever had siblings at all, sisters at all on the podcast. So have you guys always been interested in stuff like this growing up? It was this, or how did this come about? Two sisters.
We have. So when I was 5, my grandfather visited me, and it was, you're a 5-year-old, so you see a spirit, and the first thing you do is you hide under the covers, you do all these things. And it wasn't really until years later, we're talking as a family, that it dawned on us, the timing of all of it, that it was my grandfather coming to say goodbye. So from that point, we've always been very open to spirit. Natalie sees a lot more of that than I do on a pretty typical basis in her homes and things like that. But we've also been in the corporate world for 30 years. So we are working, we work for a software company. So we actually are, and we both work for the same company. So we're very close. But, we're like, last year we finally said, we really want to be practicing our spirituality with others and sharing what we've learned and what we know. And we developed Immersive Spirit from that. But you want to talk about your...
I always grew up haunted, thought everybody did, realized they didn't, and thought maybe we should look into that.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now, which one's Stephanie? Raise your hand. Which one?
I'm Stephanie.
That one. Okay. That's Stephanie. All right. And Natalie. Okay. So, 5 years old, and a lot of, for most people, it is a childhood experience. Is where it usually begins.
Yeah.
And now, so would you guys share your experiences with each other? As kids.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
so.
Oh yeah.
You could always go, big sis, little sis could always, and she had your back.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing I did not get to cover, so let me go ahead and cover this now. Guys, we do have, we are streaming live, so we have viewers, and they come in with their questions. So we're going to be getting some questions coming in here, and I want you guys I'll read them, and I want you guys to answer them the best you can. We've got our first question of the evening from Jillian Leonard. She's one of our very own here at TESA. Do you ladies do the Estes method during your investigations?
Yep, we sure do. So that's actually one that we deploy on every investigation because we get a lot of information. We've been doing that for years because we've been doing paranormal investigations long before we decided to start doing readings as psychic and mediumship type things. So Estes method actually developed, I believe, in Estes Park, Colorado. We deploy it everywhere.
Yeah.
So explain to some people who may not be familiar about what that method is.
You want to talk about it?
Sure. So Estes method basically means that you've got you're blindfolded, you've got, you're listening to white noise, right? So you're running a frequency scan. You've got basically a little radio that runs at a very high speed or some other type of device, a spirit box that you can just run through, and then somebody else. So in this case, as we're doing this with each other, for example, like if I were blindfolded, I have earphones on, I've got the little earplugs in, and all I'm hearing is these frequencies. And she would be asking questions. I have no idea what those questions are. All I'm doing is relaying the words that I'm hearing as they come through. And so we're basically having a conversation with spirit that way. That is very, what's the word I'm looking for? It leaves little room for interpretation, right? Because it's very clear. The one person's asking the questions, the other's giving the response, but they're doing it as a channeling type mechanism, because all I'm doing, or all she's doing as the listener, is just repeating what we hear.
Absolutely. And, I think that, first of all, that's one of my favorite methods. That's absolutely one of my favorite methods.
It works great.
And if there was anything out there that could, maybe stump the naysayers, which of course people who want to criticize anything are going to, regardless. Oh, yeah. But there's just been too many incidences where you're just like, wow, that was insane what just happened, there's no way you could have somebody influencing, just like, that's the thing I love about it. It's foolproof.
It is. It's absolutely foolproof, because what is the word I'm looking for? I can't, it's just right there. But it's just you're boxed into something, right? So you are completely secluded in that. And all you're doing is relaying that information. And what we also do is we tend to lay down the lights, and we have a REM pod. And so we have some other things going. And a lot of times as you're getting those responses, depending upon the question, those will be going off with it as well. So the video cameras are capturing everything in tandem, which is amazing to come back and watch.
I love it. Definitely my favorite method. We do got another question from Jillian. If you use the SB7, which frequency do you run the device for the
Hi,
SB?
Jillian. So I'm not sure specifically what an SB7 is. We do have 2 different spirit boxes, but we typically run them on the AM frequency at the 200 speed. So that seems to give us our best option to hear the difference in tone, because you hear, people speaking on those frequencies, but you can hear the difference in the tone when it seems to be a little bit more spirit.
Right.
Well, since we're on the topic, and this is one of my favorite things about paranormal investigation, my favorite methods, the thing that I find super intriguing, can you tell us a story, an investigation that you were doing and you picked up some evidence, something, and it just mind blowing, something interesting? You guys have any stories off the top of your head?
Where do you want to start? Okay. We were just at the Hotel Congress. We went with very little knowledge of the things that happen there other than it's haunted. We did stay overnight.
And the Dillinger Gang. We knew all about the history of the Dillinger Gang,
because that's a very popular thing. I stayed in room 242 and she stayed in room 220. So the hotel staff gave us a little bit of background about those rooms. But as we got in them, and we're kind of in a balance now because we do psychic mediumship work. So there's like boundaries we have to draw, because we start drawing spirits towards us just that want to talk and chat.
Right. They have nothing to do with the hotel. They're like, yay, a portal. We're jumping in. Let's chat.
Yeah. So that we have that quite a bit. But interestingly enough, in 242, which is supposedly the most haunted room in the hotel, the EMF in that room is through the roof on a baseline.
Can't even use equipment.
Yeah. You can't use equipment in there. Like
Wow.
Everything is just crazy. So we were in 220 and we'd heard the story. And sure enough, the spirit that we had heard about came in probably 4 or 5 people after we talked to about 4 or 5 people on the spirit box. He came in and he's like, "Hi, this is Vince." And to which I actually took my headphones off and my earbuds out. I'm like, did they say Vince? Who are you talking to? And so it was just it's kind of an aha moment when everything starts matching up to the stories that you're being told.
Right. Vince was the inhabitant of that room for a long time, and a veteran, and a longtime hotel guest. And for him to, all these other conversations coming through ahead of time. And then all of a sudden, hey, Vince here. And oh, yay. Hi, Vince. Yeah.
And we do take that with a grain of salt too, because we know that we can be interpreting things, just, you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
Sometimes you can have your own bias, and you have to be careful too with that. Yes. Now here's a great question from $6 Million Man. I remember that. I'm old. But anyway,
us too.
The $6 Million Man, he's got a question. It says, what was the most confirming interaction you've had while investigating? What was the one thing that just made, 100% convinced you?
God, there's a few. I mean, I'm thinking
there's probably not one. There's probably multiple.
I'm trying to figure out which is going to work best here.
Right. Well, okay. Just from the most recent investigation. So my partner went with us, and he got pinched, which is always fun to watch, when somebody gets a good grab.
Oh yeah.
And that's
not fun to happen to, but yeah.
Nope. You kind of go, oh, all right. Thanks. Hi. I'm aware. I gotcha. I hear. But what was really more interesting was previously we'd been doing some recording, and we got some laughter because there's several bars downstairs, right? Which we think is a big indicator of the EMF in 242. We think there's a little wiggle room there for the electricity that just comes from what's generated by the power itself. But there was some crazy, weird male laughter, and my partner's phone went off probably 10 minutes later. this isn't a ringtone on his phone. This isn't, it played some weird circus music and then went, ha, 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 and did the same laugh.
And it was hanging on his hip. So
and
it's
it was
not like
hanging
he
on
was
his hip. He's
handling
not
his phone.
touching it.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally thought, did I leave an app open that played a video? Because we have no idea what this sound was. No clue. And we played it back, and sure as hell, it's the same laugh. It was mimicking a laugh from probably 10 minutes earlier heard downstairs. And that was a little, and it wasn't a pretty laugh. It was not,
Right.
it was a little uncomfortable. Yeah.
Oh,
That
wow.
was a really recent one, but
At the same time, in that was in 242 that happened. And then
Right.
in 220, we had a tripwire down.
Mm.
And the
Lit-
220, your guys' room like had no EMF at all. So
None.
the equipment functioned perfectly. So it's down and it's purple the whole time. And then we start seeing a little bit of indication that there's people coming into the room. We're like, okay, that's great. That's exciting. And so we asked for a dance party. And the next thing you know, the tripwire
lit
from
up
one end to the other, like they were doing the two-step. And
like
that
a
was
disco
super
ball.
fun.
It was so fun. All the different colors. We're just sitting there watching and videoing and talking, going, this is great. We're so happy you're enjoying and dancing and having a good time. And they just kept going. I mean, they just kept, and then they'd stop for a while and we'd go, are you still here? And then they'd light it up and then they'd stop. And
So that
See,
was
that's the, that's the other part is when you feel like you have an intelligent interaction or,
Right.
Mhm.
with whatever's going on. Now, so how many years have you guys been doing the investigating side of things?
Probably 10,
So
Yeah,
10
probably.
years,
probably.
and that's kind of what you started out into first before you got into the mediumship and stuff like that. Did
Well,
that-
we've always been, so probably 30 years or so that we've been very intuitive, but in terms of doing it for others, and doing things publicly, the readings and that type of thing, that's really only in the last few years. So yeah, the paranormal in terms of public view would have been first.
Well, and I think a lot of it is born about like literally every house I've ever lived in. I thought I was picking haunted houses. I didn't realize I was the problem.
It was picking you. It was picking
Right.
you.
But
Like,
she's just so
they're
open,
they're just
right?
coming all the
Right?
time.
I totally understand that. I used to kind of, I've probably been, I used to kind of snicker at those kind of comments from people, but
Mhm.
not until now. It's some people are more sensitive than the others. Some people are more,
absolutely.
I don't understand why. I don't know why. In some ways, I feel like I am. Things happen around me, to me, that I'm like, this makes no sense. I don't know why this is happening. But no, I totally believe. I totally get that. It's not the house. It's you.
Right.
You're,
Well, and
you're,
some
you're,
people
you're
are
the satellite there. You're the.
And once
Exactly.
you realize that, you're like, I'm going to get some equipment and start measuring this out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And for her, to be fair, one of the things that is our goal when we're doing these is we help cross. So our ultimate goal is to make sure that we are not trapping people here that don't want to be trapped, right? To get rid of that human zoo experience. If they want to stay and they want to haunt and this is their mission and that's something that whatever, but if these are trapped souls and people that we can help cross peacefully, that's ultimately our goal. But never against, it's just like in life, right? It's never against, it's harm none and against the will of none. So that's what we do. And they're comfortable with that and they cross. But Natalie is very much more on the medium side, whereas mine is a lot of the intuitive. And, we're both very intuitive, but she hasn't come to her all the time. Even at her own house, she's got her own door set up where it's like, oh, I see you. Door's right there. Let me help you cross and go. Because they're ready and they seek her out. And that was something we had to figure out with all these houses that she's been in where, I saw the question there from the $6 million man around, did anything ever make us check out? One of the houses that she was living in, this has been 15 years ago.
Are you talking about the blue house?
Yes,
Yeah.
the blue house. We were getting it ready to sell and we're painting and it's just me and her in the house and we're on the same floor and I don't know, we're screwing around or whatever, but we're painting and I just kind of didn't know where, and I knocked on the, the little dun, da, 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 and something from the basement went dun, dun, back. And when I looked, I'm like, Natalie, she hollers right from behind me. I'm like, okay, let's paint faster. Let's paint
quicken
faster
it.
because we weren't, the thing about, I think our development with our intuitive side is that we're more comfortable now in those realms. So there's less fear. We have a deeper appreciation of people that have crossed and what it really means, the demon aspect of everything, right? Sometimes there are malevolent things. I'm not saying there's not, but there is a lot of times that we bring that in our mind to the party. And so that things in our lives that are strangling us become the things that are strangling around you. And so it may not be a demon. It's something that is being manifested by yourself.
That way, yeah.
And I think there are dark and there are,
absolutely,
there are those things. But just like, I mean, if you just like that's us, I mean, that's part of this
we
world.
Are that dark energy.
Universe. We're exactly.
Yep.
And now I do think now if you're being grabbed, touched, yeah, I think there's something bad. I would lean on the bad side there.
Right. But most of the time. And sometimes it's just, I was doing a reading for somebody one time and their grandmother came through and she pinched my cheek. And she pinched it and I was like, what the hell? And I told this gal who I was reading for, I go, your grandmother just pinched my cheek and she loved it. It was a personal moment that was meant for her. I'm just
and that's a way of communicating. Yeah, that's a contact. That's different.
Exactly.
Now, versus something grabbing you and yanking you 2 feet.
Yes, those are different. Yes.
Those are different, and definitely not a fan of that. I would almost, somebody who has had that experience, I would almost have something just appear right in front of me with a gruesome face, screaming bloody murder in my face before something grabbed me again. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing more terrifying than that in my entire life that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
But, and also, and I do think, the kind of more you understand things, the less fearful you are, in situations, and most of them too. With Jillian Leonard, another question here. Have you ever had spirits linger around you for multiple days before crossing? I had that experience earlier this year when a friend passed. He was afraid he would go to hell. Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yes, all the time. So typically, like when we pass, we typically are right on the bridge to crossing. The only time that we really get stuck here is out of fear or guilt or anger. And a lot of the spirits that I deal with are afraid of hell. They're afraid of something bad that they've done here. So it's really talking with them, working through how they're truly feeling about it, letting them know that it's very different than how we as humans in this human experience have interpreted it on this linear timeline. And it's going to be different than what they expect. And, really there's only love and compassion. And once they start to trust me, that's typically when I don't actually see them cross. I don't get to be lucky enough to see them take that bridge, but they disappear from me.
Right.
So that's usually the case why a lot of them are still here. They're afraid what the consequence might be.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of something they've done, the way they lived in this life. And, you have to answer for that. Because there's a review, right? You just kind of, it's a reflection. You get to look in that mirror and kind of go back, and it depends on who you ask. One of our mentors, she has a great theory around it, that you kind of go through a step process in terms of what did I do? And the ones that you maybe did something bad to in this lifetime, you need to feel that yourself first and then own that and then progress on and then move along. And then it's just nothing but love and compassion. And it's I love looking at it that way. I think that's a great way to look at it, because then you can look at the people like Adolf Hitler who get to feel it 1 million, 2 million times before they get to go gleaming off into the light, right? Eventually they can get to the light, but you're going to have to work for it. And we don't know. We won't know until we get there.
Well, and that's how our spirit guides have portrayed it to us.
Right.
So that's how we see it. That's how we believe it. And that's what I reiterate to all the spirits that I work with.
Yeah.
So have you ever, I've always said like the ultimate question, like a lot of, like how we were talking about, like with any EVPs or communicating, one of the top questions that, you think would be asked more, maybe you guys have asked this question, but like, is there a God? Is there a heaven? Is that real? Have you guys ever had those type of questions, and what was your answer?
Well, I think that question stems from everybody wants to know they're right. And so my answer to that is everybody's right. No matter what you call it, we all come from one source.
Gotcha.
So call it God, call it source, call it
whatever, universe. I usually refer to it as a universe is what I like to, is what I used to think of. I'm a big fan, you know, me personally, I kind of got my own little, you know, way of thinking and the way it satisfies me a lot, but kind of touching on what you were saying, you know, like when people talk about the version of hell, you know, I'm a big fan of almost like the multiverse kind of theory. Like there's a bunch of different versions of us existing all at once.
Absolutely.
We agree.
And there's somebody who knows, everybody you've ever had an interaction with has their own interpretation of you.
Mm-hmm.
And in some people's realities, you're the bad guy. And in some people's realities, you're a saint, you know, and try to be a saint as much as you can. You know what I'm saying? Because which means be good to people and be good to the world and do good things, put good energy out there. Because I think whenever this reality ends, we kind of pop up in another one, maybe. Who knows?
Right.
But I think I'd like to pop in a good version of me. And I think popping up in a bad version of me would be the definition of hell, you know?
Right.
So
yeah. And then that's like the review part that we're talking about. That's like the first step as you cross over. You cross over, you see your loved ones, but then you start this review. That review is from everybody's perspective in your life. Mm-hmm. So you have to sit through all of that. And that can certainly be hell for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. So, if you weren't kind and you've got a lot to look in the mirror about, that could be painful.
I totally down with that. So I mean, and so much is in right now. You talk about now. We're about to be. We do have a commercial break we got to get to here in a couple minutes. So if we can start down this, but then we'll pick back up. But so now, is it Natalie? Are you the one? Do they come to you more often? Do you and you know? And how do they communicate to you? Because, you know, I do know that they have their own little unique ways of communicating with you, and you know what's going on. So, but how does it usually work with you? Or at least go ahead.
Yeah, they come to me typically at night. I do have boundaries around my house that only things that can come in are for my best path and for their absolute best path. I ask that they do not touch me if I am laying horizontally. So I have that boundary too, because a few times after being touched or grabbed or someone's twitching my toe or sitting on the bed,
move your blankets in the middle of the night.
Yeah, they move my blankets off me. And so if it's in the middle of the night, I know that it's serious and they need help and they're very scared. So I'll sit up, and that's when I tap in, get my mediumship going. And I use all of my dictionary items, and they come, you know, all spirits know your dictionary items. They know how to relate to you. They know it all. So they'll use my dictionary items, and they'll show me different images of their life. They may not be dictionary items, but they're also things that I can interpret.
Right.
So that's how we start the path. And then we start identifying like what about that has them stuck here and how I can help.
And your dictionary item is really something that just for anybody who hasn't used those terms, but it's something that resonates with you. So if, you know, I'm thinking about a favorite cold beverage or something at that moment, they might show me a nice cold can of Diet Pepsi.
Okay. I'm going to stop right there. There because I have that happen to me all the time with my parents, by the way. And I had something very recent happen, and I always share these little experiences on the podcast here with my parents because, you know, both of them passed, but they're not gone. They're still here. But I do want to share a story when we come back because we've got to cut to a commercial break right here in a second. Okay. But guys, hang out with your questions. We got an interesting topic. We're on a roll here with Natalie and Stephanie. We'll be right back after these messages, guys. Hang out. We'll be right back. All right. That does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, guys, we are back here with Stephanie and Natalie Curd. And right before we cut to the break, I feel like I've got to talk about this because this is this happens to me all the time. This happens to me all the time, and you guys are 100% correct. With my parents, okay? Now, my parents passed away, and they've been gone, a few years now. And every now and then, my mom mainly, she will pop in and let her presence be known somehow. And in a way, she'll communicate with me in a way that, just like how you said, it may be something, just, you know what's going on. And I was talking with a friend, and we were talking about this, and I talked about how my mom is the one that usually comes to. I said, my dad doesn't pop up as much as I would like, and I had just had that conversation that morning. Okay. Mm-hmm. I go into the grocery store that morning, just a few hours later, and I look over, and at the checkout, there's a man standing there identical to my father. Okay. The same clothing, same everything. And I thought, and immediately, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't amazed, but I was like, okay, Dad, I see you. I know. Okay, there you are.
Right.
You're letting me know. Okay. So, and that's why I think it's very important for people to always keep your windows and your doors open, because you have to think so many people probably that just get so caught up in their day-to-day lives, and they're so closed off, focusing on something that really doesn't matter, and they miss these little communication signs with things. I did have to get that out, but we do have a question I want to get to real quick, and if you guys want to talk any more about that. But $6 Million Man is back with a question. What's your take on ringing ears with no medical reasons for this? Is this a message or a code trying to come through, and how can I access it so I don't hear it as a noise?
Amazing question. So we actually were working on clearings yesterday with a large group, and ringing in the ears for me is very much an indicator that spirit's trying to get my attention and I'm not paying attention. So there's lots of different perspectives you can take on this. Either I've gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm listening. What do I need to know? And I tap in right away and see what's going on. But if that doesn't help, like stopping and meditating, walking yourself into a white room in your meditation, so you push your creation out and imagine that, and then allow it to pull you in and tell you whatever you need to know. So a great question for that is, what do I need to know?
Yes. Ditto. My left ear rings all the time just because I'm getting older and tinnitus. But my right ear, when that starts just ding, I'm like, I'll stop in my tracks and go, okay, what am I supposed to know? Yeah. And it's almost like it'll ring until something kind of resonates. And to Natalie's point, it is. Sometimes you have to really sit with it, right? Or it's just figuring out what works best for you, because everybody's different. The fact is, everyone is intuitive. Everyone. There's no such thing as a gift, right? Everyone has the ability. It's to your point, and Danny, you said it perfectly. Are you paying attention? And if you get that ringing, pay attention, because that's some people will actually feel a brush on the shoulder. Some will get, for me, if I'm doing readings, when I'm with somebody, I'll have fuzziness that feels like tickling on the top of my head. So pay attention to those things and tap into that. And sometimes it is just going into, closing your eyes, imagining you're in a white room. There's nothing in there, no furniture, nothing. And then see what pops through, right? Do you hear it, smell it, taste it, see it, know it? What is it and just pay attention to what that is.
I mean, I agree with that. There's just so many times that, there's times I thought back, it's like how many things that I may have missed just from where before I was closed up,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And, like I don't consider myself a spiritual reader or anything like that. But one thing I do like to do, like with anybody I know who's had a close family, loved one pass away, if I ever do get a chance to talk to them, I always tell them, please, I promise you, keep your windows open. Okay. Pay attention, because they will communicate with you. They will, I feel like your loved ones will, they do want to comfort you,
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Especially if there's something that you need to know. I mean, our grandmother comes through to us a lot, and she was a very, very strong Christian religious woman. So it surprises the hell out of both of us on a pretty regular occasion when she props through to, how you doing, girls? Love you. You're doing great. Again, recognition for us and kind of confirmation from what we hear from our guides as to when you get to the other side, all those barriers and restrictions and things that we think of from our programming life in terms of what we grew up with, and religion and all this dogma that's around every certain thing is just gone. And it's just love, and it's just embracing everybody.
And, one thing I do want to say is, I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual person. And that's another thing I used to laugh about. People call them, but it's a real thing. And almost all the popular religions, if you take I think if you take what Jesus was saying and what, Buddha was saying and what, even Muhammad, even some things, if you take the important things that they said, it makes a complete sense what we're talking about right now, guys.
Absolutely. They're all masters.
So
they're all masters. And yes.
I think it's, in my opinion, just my opinion, not knocking anyone's religion, whatever, but I think the problem with most religions are people. That's the problem, not, so
we get in our own way. We absolutely
exactly.
are the records of our own lives and path that way. They're all beautiful theories. We grew up Christian. I have a huge respect and love for Christianity. Most of it.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. I'm with you.
just
We're spiritual eclectics.
Yes.
Much like you are.
Exactly.
yes,
Like,
yes,
I take a little bit of
Yes.
everything, and
absolutely.
you kind of.
Make
But
it
we do
your
got some
own.
questions. We got some. Okay, first,
Okay.
she's been quiet tonight. First of all, I'm gonna let you guys know she has been quiet tonight. She is our all-time question leader here on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Live light. Round of applause. Yes, live light.
Hello, Liv.
Hi, Liv.
Woohoo.
We got a question. Is there a global frequency increase of late? My dreams are becoming wildly vivid, and I'm exhausted from a busy nighttime life. LOL. Hey, I'm with you too. My dreams have been vivid too. I had a dream I was doing a show in North Korea, and I went to prison for telling a bad joke. So real. But
Oh my
anyways,
goodness.
but anyways, let's get to Liv's awesome question. Not my
Yeah.
stupid dream.
That is a great question. So we actually try to look at the energy every day. We do a daily card reading and a card pull, and the energy has been a little bit chaotic. On top of the Schumann resonance has also been sending out a lot of spikes as well. So that's the frequency in which the earth speaks. So typically I think it sits at like 7.83 hertz, and it's gone as high as 42, I think, last week.
Yeah.
So that will tend to adjust our frequencies as well. But like today we have we're in the zodiac of Aries for our moon, and we're also in a growing moon. We're in the waxing gibbous. But it feels very much like we're not sure of ourselves, and we don't really want to take that step. So it's kind of a really chaotic energy, and I can see how that would go into your nighttime as well.
And for our charts next year, because we do a lot of astrology too, which I didn't mention at the beginning, talking about everything we do, but we do a lot of astrology. And next year, we knew, election, whatever, but next year is a year of change. And it seems very positive, even though things are all chaotic and people feel this topsy-turvy energy right now amongst everything, no matter how you vote or what you believe. The energy is good, right? We're in a position of change, but there is so much chaos leading up to that. And that is very much around the fiery Aries we're in as well right now, right? So it's spark, a lot of spark. And to Natalie's point about the hertz for their, yeah.
Okay, so let me make sure I heard that right. You said positive.
Positive.
As
That's
in
where,
good.
that's where, if we're all going to follow along and be our kind selves and do the right things, the stars will align to have a very amazing 2025 and
Okay.
2026.
And now you know how a lot of us, regardless to who you voted for or what,
Affiliation, yep.
we were all nervous because we're all nervous that because there was a lot of divide. So, but let's take that great news. All right, that sounds awesome. We've got Live Light here with another fantastic question. She said, also she forgot to say, welcome, Natalie and Stephanie.
Thanks, Live Light.
Thanks, Live Light.
Do you have any messages from your spirit guides for humanity to increase our vibration and frequency?
So my spirit guides and I've actually been talking about this for the last week, maybe two. Love and compassion. And when you're looking at other people in this world, remember that they are also a spirit having a human experience. And they are here fulfilling their role. So try to remember that when you want to react to somebody, step back a little bit and respond.
And we just had a guest on our podcast last night, and she put it really well. Beyond the roles, right? As the skeptics are important. The naysayers, the people that are, we think in the human experience against, they're not. They're here to stand you up. You wouldn't know what you believe or how you want things to function in your life without seeing that opposite perspective. So if we're living in that and saying, I respect you and I appreciate you, and, I mean to say it, namaste. I see the spirit in me sees the spirit in you, and honor that. And that is going to be a big key in your own happiness. One of the things my partner, I love him. He says this to me all the time. He's like, other people's opinions of you are none of your effing business.
Yeah, none of your
and
business.
It's a mantra for me, because then I just live and I'll smile and just keep going.
So that's a great question, Liv. So just be compassionate and loving and see other people's
Spirit guides are a lot of times just kind of like, yep, that's what you're seeing from your human anger side. Don't do that. Stop it.
Well, I quit caring what people think about me a long time ago. So
right? You have to. It's way healthier. You have way more fun if you don't give a crap what other people think about
and,
you.
Sometimes you kind of wish you see people that are wrapped up in the unimportant and the dumb things in life. And, it's sometimes you kind of wish you could make them see your point of view. But unfortunately, I think it's something that it just has to happen, and
Right.
And it's just something, it just has to happen on its own. Jillian Leonard.
Yeah.
You got another question here? You guys we're on a roll of questions. Do you connect with extraterrestrials via the mechanisms of mediumship? Now, that's an interesting little theory there, because it's something that, a lot of us have talked about, and that discussion has come up with is some people seem to believe that everything's connected with the extraterrestrials, paranormal. There's something there, and why not? Because I mean, I think in some ways that and basically you're communicating with something from another dimension, different type of dimensions that don't exist right here in this particular one. So yeah, what's your thought on that?
So this is going to be a great conversation, because I think I'm going to be able to learn from you guys as well, Jillian, you included. I have done over a couple hundred readings now. Out of those couple hundred, 3 times I have had an energy come in the room that, as I explained it to my sitter, they explained it as alien to me. I did get one group had told me that it started with a P, the Pelagians.
Yes, I've heard of those.
And another group told me that they're under the sea. So I have had them, and it was strange. It was kind of frightening, because when I get them, like, ancestors will touch me on the right side of my head and spirit guides will touch me on my left. So I kind of know where this message is coming from for my sitter. This very large being, which they can be any size they want, ancestors, spirit guides. This very large being came in, and I felt no emotions from them. Like, I couldn't pick up whether they were happy or sad. I didn't know whether they liked me or not. So it was very confusing, and it's happened 3 times, and all 3 were claimed by the sitter that was probably
the sitter knew it was
the sitter knew that, and that
because
was
of where they sat and because the message is for them, and so they understood that right away as alien.
Yeah. So you guys tell me, what do you think?
I after a year of doing this show, okay, guys, I've heard a lot. I've heard a whole lot, and which I'm not by no means. First of all, I'm a comic by trade, so I have to find the humor in this, and I want to slap myself as soon as you said polite. I was like, yeah, I've heard that. It's crazy that I have, but yeah, I know.
I'm happy to hear that, though. That gives me some
right.
Sure. I'm a paranormal dork now, and there's nothing I can do about it. But I don't know. I think there is something. I think with everything, I believe in a different dimensions. I believe more of an interdimension being than I do than some slimy creature living on a rock, 1,000 light years away. So I just think it's another, just something out there that exists in one of the other dimensions. And you guys, what you're doing, we're our consciousness is like a satellite. That's and our conscious existence is another reality. It's the spiritual side of things, and I don't have the answers, but I can definitely get down with that theory, the thought that it is all connected. And sometimes you could be communicating with a loved one or a spirit or someone trying to cross, or you could be communicating with another interdimensional being, and in some cases there's people believe that they have their own intentions and, of doing things the way they do them, and trying to send messages. And, we some people don't like to mix your beans and your potatoes, but I think, that's just, I believe it's just a big old pot of chili.
We're all one source, I think.
Uh-huh.
So
Absolutely.
And I am getting corrected by my guides saying it's Palladians.
Palladians. That's good too. But I screw up all the names for all of them. They hate me. You know what? Can we all agree? Can we all agree this? for goodness sakes, guys, it's 2024. Can we come up with a better name than Grays? I mean, shouldn't we move past that by now? One day, come on, we shouldn't identify them by their color. You know, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, there you go. That seems racist.
But I don't know, but that's what a lot of us hear also with the TESA. Ryan Stacy, he's the owner of TESA and the Experiencer Support Association. And he tuned me on to the everything's connected kind of theory. Oh, yeah. At first, I didn't want to believe it. But the more I was kind of looking into things, I was like, well, he's got a good point there. He does. So who knows?
And when you look at it from that perspective, I mean, you have to take on a whole new appreciation for everything, right? The pebbles, the rocks, the trees, everything. Everything has an energy. The crystals we wear, it's all got an energy and a vibration. So why are we limiting that? Why are we saying that we're it? And that, you look out at these billions of stars and things that are out there and say, oh, no, but it's just us. We're special. And so, I mean, the more you learn, the more you're like, woo, anything.
The more you learn. Well, to me, the thing that I love about it is I don't know at the end of the day, but everything is a surprise. Just like you said, the rocks, the stars, the trees. What in the world? As hard as it is to explain this, sometimes I just look out the window and I'm like, what is this?
Right?
You know what I'm saying? What is going on? Yeah. This is just so wild that I exist. And that's a cloud. What is happening? And I didn't do any shrooms or anything, man.
The world's a trip all by itself.
Dude, it is, man. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we get bored, that's stupid.
Right? I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, guys, this show goes by fast. It's one thing. And especially when we get so many fantastic questions from Jillian, Liv, and $6 Million Man. Sorry about that. Did you hear that drop by? Sometimes they'll be loud. Okay. Also, I've got a chocolate lad named Boba that likes to make surprise shout outs too every now and then. So,
love it.
But big shout out to you guys. $6 Million Man, Live Like, Jillian. I think I saw David Martin pop in there. Good to see you, David. You guys had so many fantastic questions tonight. Thank you. But let's do this because you guys did mention the podcast. You mentioned some things before we cut out of here. Stephanie and Natalie, where can our viewers and our listeners learn more about you guys?
Oh, we'd love it. So the name of our podcast is High Heels to Happy Feels. A little bit of a resonance around where we come from in our corporate life and this move into the spiritual and helping people get there. And then you can find everything about us at immersivespirit.com. We're on Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok. Yeah, I don't know.
We're everywhere.
All the socials.
The socials. Just start with immersivespirit.com. You can find our offerings. We have lots of free courses. So there's, some things about like a 21-day journey and a little bit of self-development. If you're interested, no obligation to anything, right? Totally free. No strings attached on those. So please feel free to check us out.
We hope to see you.
Now, how do you guys, let me do this real quick. Now, as far as investigations go, do you guys, do you guys take like bookings for that? If someone's like,
we do. And that's all. If you take a look again on our website, if you go under our services, we will do real estate clearings. We will help with investigations as requested.
Yeah. If you're haunted and scared, we do that.
Absolutely.
And if you're a realtor or you're selling your house and it just seems like bad energy, we'll do that too.
We'll come do that.
Okay, that is awesome. That is awesome.
And well, I remote just as well. So just if you need remote, we're happy to do that. Same with my Reiki.
Okay, cool. Because you guys are in Arizona.
No, we are in. I'm visiting her in Colorado, and I'm in Montana.
Okay, awesome. Two really cool states, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, so you do remote, and they can find you at your website. And what was the name of the podcast? One more time.
High Heels to Happy Feels.
High Heels to Happy Fields. I love it. There we go. Well, I tell you what, this has been a blast. You guys have been fun. Like I said, fantastic conversations, and you guys did fantastic answering the questions. We would love to have you guys back on, but thank you so much, Stephanie and Natalie, for coming on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. You guys were great.
Thanks, Danny.
Thanks,
We had a
Danny.
blast.
And-
Thanks, everybody.
And everybody, yeah.
All right, guys, that does it for that episode. First of all, I want to give a shout out, man. So many great questions. Yes, you guys were great. Thank you for tuning in every Tuesday night with the awesome questions. You make my job easier. What can I say? You make it easier. There's no way I could come up with those good questions. I'm not as smart as you guys, if you can tell. Okay. But hey, thank you guys so much for your great questions. If you guys have not done so, be sure to like and subscribe to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Tell your friends, tell your mama, tell your cousins, tell your dogs, tell your cats. Tell them to subscribe to the podcast. We anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, everywhere, you can listen to us. And also head over to Patreon, show us some love and heed the world. That'll get you access to some really cool articles at experiencersupport.org. And like I said at the beginning, this is a big deal to me, okay? They're having the UAP hearings tomorrow, okay? So maybe we'll learn some really cool information. That's what I got my fingers crossed for. If you guys have not done so, show your boy some love. Show Danny Whitson. It does say comedian, magician down here. If you would like to learn a little more about me, you can follow me on Instagram at Super Magic Boy, or give me a follow on Facebook at Danny Whitson Magic and Comedy. And I'm on TikTok, Danny Whitson Magic and Comedy on TikTok, which I share some clips here from the episode. So definitely hop over there and show me some love. Like always, we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network here on 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 New Orleans. Guys, like I said, this has been a fantastic show. We'll be back next Tuesday with another fantastic guest. And trying to think, is there anything else am I forgetting here, Chris? I don't think so. All right. Well, I'm going to shut up, and I look to see you guys next week, same time, with your great questions. And thank you guys so much. This is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Peace. I'm out. All right. That does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest, and a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious, heed the world, and keep the paranormal normal. I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and this has been Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.